Legislation is a classic top-down solution. So we will decide something and then it'll be fixed.
When the attack happened in Sydney, the two men killed people, in that fashion, I think the politics jumped onto the solution of a legislation. So when you jump onto a solution without having that public conversation, public dialogue, that what could be done and what should be done and how do we manage, I think almost always, if you are not having that public sphere and open the dialogue with everybody, all stakeholders in the room, your solution will always be falling short. And then I think those are difficult conversations to be had as a country, as a society, as a community. But again, that takes leadership. That takes leadership to have that publicly say that, okay, I have this political capital of that much time. I can consume a political capital, not to win the next election, but to have that difficult conversation which had to be had now, rather than jumping onto a solution of a legislation and then mix three things into one and make a paper and push through the parliament because I can control. So I think that kind of a leadership I aspire for. I want to see more often. What's your views on those things?
Legislation is a classic top-down solution. So we will decide something and then it'll be fixed. But when it comes to complex cultural issues, how we relate to one another, bottom-up change is far more sustainable. It's what sticks when we actually talk to each other. So I wonder if almost instead of creating new legislation, they could have all used their media opportunities to say, hey, why don't you go out, have a conversation around the dinner table about what this means. Have a chat about religious tolerance and how we can embrace difference and how just because someone believes something different than you doesn't mean that it's bad. Again, those are just off the cut. Like surely you'd come with a better frame, but how do you actually encourage the bottom-up conversations to happen? The model I often use for top-down, bottom-up is marriage equality. So in the U.S., the Supreme Court decided gay marriage is okay, same-sex marriage, go for it. Decided at a national level. But what that meant was that in the middle of the country, in more conservative places, a couple would go and ask a cake store to make a cake for them, and they'd be denied. Right? It still wasn't safe. It still wasn't culturally acceptable to be gay in the middle of the country. Whereas here in Australia, it was a bit later. It was more a couple of years after that, and certainly polling in early 2000s said that same-sex marriage was not supported by the majority. But then by the time 2017 rolled around, everyone had had that conversation. Everyone knew someone who was gay. They'd all talked to each other. It was much more culturally acceptable. And in addition, we continue to have the conversation during the campaign. So even though it was unfairly put to a public vote, like that probably should have just been legislation, that conversation that happened in our communities made it so that the legislation was almost old news. It was boring because we've already all decided it's okay. And great, I'm glad you finally put it in the black and white.